Greetings, ladies and gentlefish, and welcome back to some World of Tanks subscriber replays, this time courtesy of My Name is Puffs. And these two games in this video, both going to be Puffs, both going to be played by Puffs. And he is in each case, the T26E5 Patriot. This is a Tier 8 premium heavy tank for the Yankee Doodle Dandies, the Americans. And in this game, Puffs is platooned up with Nick and Wibble1. I see a couple of games where he's platooned with Wibble, and I love that name every time. And they are driving the 50TP prototype and the M4A1 Irregular Resay. This is an all Tier 8 match. So matchmaking could be better, matchmaking could be worse, you know, you just run with it. So the Patriot, for anyone who's not aware, this is essentially what happened when they took, historically, when they took the Super Pershing and tried to do a little bit of mass production on it. So this started life as a Pershing, speaking of which, there's one over there. Ooh, Wibble just took a bit of a battering, and so did that Pershing. And they upgraded the armour, among other things. So this thing has got thicker frontal armour than your standard Pershing, hence it's a heavy tank, which is nice. 90mm gun, but the 90mm gun in this instance is given APCR as its standard ammunition choice. And you've got somewhere around the 220 pen mark. Still only 240 alpha damage though. DPM isn't too bad, but you do kind of have to trade multiple of your shots for each one of theirs. Yeah, not damaging that guy there, which is, I would say, a little bit unfortunate, but yeah. And takes a big slap in the face from a Scorpion. You know, you might have upgraded armour, but Scorpion's still going to hurt. And this thing has, I guess it would be fair to say, become, most people consider the standard Tier 8 premium heavy tank for the Americans. I mean, the older ones, you've got the Mutant, but that was originally kind of an alpha or beta reward tank or something. I think it was alpha. It has been sold since, but frankly, it's not very good. And then, of course, you've also got the T34, which most people will tell you has been power crept, and they've kind of got a point. So you're left with this, and there is a if you don't like this skin on it, with all the stars and stripes and all that jazz, there is a non-skinned variant, which is the T26E5. No P at the end. Statistically, it's the same tank. Oh, hello, Mr. 7032122. That's another mouthful of a name. Yeah, like, frontal engagement against that chap is always going to be awkward. T32, I mean, his hull isn't great, so I will put a shot through the front of that. Hull is good enough against lower tier tanks, but against sort of 220-ish penetration, it's not going to hold up all that well. But the guy seems to be trying to make it work without going hull down as well as I guess he thinks he is. Although I say that, you know, he's not being penned with every shot here, to be fair to him. Can we get the side of the turret, or maybe the upper front plate there? There we go, a little bit of stunning from artillery. Now, the one thing I have noticed with the matchmaking these days is when you get these sort of all same tier matches, whilst I'm not necessarily saying I love them, it is a good opportunity if you're driving a premium tank, because generally speaking, there is enough damage to go around that you can rack up pretty respectable damage counts, which is great from a credit making perspective, but the enemy tanks aren't so horrendously difficult to damage as would be the case in some instances if you're in a tier 10 match, that you're going to struggle to physically do the damage. So in terms of doing damage and therefore decent credit making, it seems to be this kind of nice middle ground between being top tier, where yeah, you can get the kills but there isn't that much damage to go around, and being bottom tier, where there's the damage to go around but it's much harder to actually get hold of it. And Puffs here is just abusing the lower front plate on the VK, which to 220 penetration, yeah, he can make that work. Another hit there from a big scary tank destroyer, that one an Su-130 PM. A little bit lucky, perhaps, in both cases, because the Scorpion, 490 average damage, but he rolled low against Puffs, and the Su, I think, has average damage of 530, 520 or something like that. Again, he rolled low. You can see here that whilst the Patriot does definitely have some frontal armour, you know, guns worth a damn are still going to hurt, essentially. And I guess it would probably be fair to say this thing kind of plays... Ooh, lovely shot there. Kind of plays a little bit like just an up-armoured medium tank, which, given that it's based on a Pershing, I suppose makes some sense. Scoreline is 7-5 here, so the friendly team is winning. Can we go for the Commander's Cupola there? Oh, shot misses. It's nice to see people actually try and aim for weak spots, or relative weak spots, without just dabbing the 2 key there. Ooh, yeah, nice one. That's Puff's second kill, taking down the PK. Scoreline is 8-6. So the friendly team are winning here, but they're not winning by, you know, oodles and oodles and oodles. So, can they break out? Now, there are still some problems here. The 703-2 is a dangerous tank. That was the first double-barreled tank to be added into the game. Chip, no it wasn't. There's that little tier 3 American thing. Yeah, but that doesn't use the same game mechanics, so for the purposes of this discussion, I'm not including it. That's basically a 2-round autoloader. So, it was the first of the double-barreled tanks to be added into the game, and it's pretty tasty. Nice gun, and with that double-barreled mechanic, you've got the option of either 2 shots in relatively quick succession, or you can go for the 2 shots in one go, which is going to make someone feel a whole world of pain, and you've actually got pretty good frontal armour as well. So quite a nice machine there. Puffs at this point, unfortunately, has lost his 2 platoon mates, and the enemy team have evened the scoreline up, and deciding here that given they still have that SU-130 PM, and there's an IS-22, and there's a good old Desmond there, and there's the 703-2, discretion is probably the better part of Valor here. He doesn't want to keep using that position. It's outstayed its usefulness. It was useful, don't get me wrong, and if Puffs were to die right here, it would still be a respectable game from him. But he wants to go somewhere else, do something else, and see if he can be useful somewhere where maybe he's not going to keep getting slapped by massive Great Tank Destroyer guns, which, I mean, that's fair. The irony, of course, being that as soon as he moves away, the SU dies, and there is another SU out there somewhere, so yeah. Kind of a little bit of sod's law. Speaking of the other SU, he claims the friendly Pershing, and the scores are even once again. Puffs has switched to, I was about to say APCR ammunition, but on this tank that's not very helpful. Puffs has switched to his gold APCR, which takes the penetration from, what we got? We go from 230, that's actually pretty good for a tier 8 heavy, to 259. Okay, so we're packing about 260 pen here. And he's done that presumably for the 703-2, because that thing frontally is pretty darn tough. It's kind of in the same sort of ballpark as the Defender. So whilst his regular rounds can go through the lower front plate of that tank, it's not very reliable. Not as reliable as you might like when the scores are even and you really need to make your shots count. So loading up his premium rounds here, gold rounds, whatever you want to call them, does, I think, make sense. Now Puffs is suggesting to his team that they let the bad guys just come up and asking his artillery to pre-aim. I'm not sure if the friendly artillery has shots on the 703-2's last known position, given that M40, M43's current location, but, and as it is, of course, as soon as you double tap the 2 button, well, your next shot is a Progetto who has about as much armour as I do. But, you know, that's sod's law. There is an SU, a friendly SU-130 PM in the background, however, so if they can lure out the Progetto or the 703, that tank destroyer could give them a little bit of a slappening, which would be nice. This is getting a little bit stagnant here, and this I find is often the problem with this side of the map. It does tend to bog down as you've got this sort of corridor here. If you're in a tank with a little bit of a strong turret and you can get there, then just over here on the right hand side there is a depression in the ground that you can go into and really make yourself a nuisance and get crossfire in on the enemy, but it works best in those sort of low profile, very strong turret type machines. I'm thinking predominantly Soviet and I guess Chinese heavy and medium tanks there. I think the Patriot, whilst it could have a go at that position, I think really it's just a little bit too tall to make that position work effectively. Artillery gets a shot there in on the Progetto, and of course Puff's second gold round is into the Progetto, so the extra pen is completely irrelevant. And he bounces on the 703 too. Yeah, go figure. Ooh, that 703 takes a bit of a battering though, although he does finish off the Emil. Shot there through the front of him. One more round into this 703 will take care of him, but it's really dicey with that Progetto on the flank. Puffs goes for a shot on the Progetto, and hello, surprise T44, who I think has possibly bitten off a little bit more than he can chew, especially given that either that was a horrendously low damage roll. Nope, he's using the stock gun. Which is interesting. If he were using the upgraded gun and assuming he'd got the 2 shots off, that would have been sufficient to deal with Puffs, but he wasn't. He did get his 2 shots off, but not enough. Go figure. Probably didn't help from his perspective that he got a low damage roll with that second shot. I believe the average damage on that is 180, but he got a high damage roll with his first shot, and, well, we appreciate the support, ISU, but, yeah, that 703 just gave you a bit of a slappening. It looked like it might have been both barrels at once, literally, into the guy, but we shall see. Now, Puffs is taking the opportunity here to move forward. I say opportunity, the risk to move forward, and the ISU actually takes down the 703. Puffs is still firing his gold rounds here, probably because he hasn't noticed that he still is, or he's like, I don't care, I will worry about ammunition in a moment, I'm a bit preoccupied with making this Progetto go away, which is fair enough. Do have to be a little bit careful here because, hello artillery, who takes out the ISU. Now on the plus side, I suppose, that does mean that the artillery is reloading for a little while, and so Puffs gets a brief respite. On the downside, the ISU has just gone to a better place. The SU-130 PM is going around the other side, and ooh, finally Puffs is able to deal with that Progetto. Now that leaves the SU-130 PM and the SU-14-2, and Puffs loads a HE round. HE rounds on this tank, I mean they're 90mm HE, 320 alpha damage, 45 penetration. The thing that's going to trip you up, potentially, is that your standard rounds on this tank have a shell velocity of just over 1,000 meters a second. Same for your gold rounds. Your HE rounds are down to 823. So if you're having to take those shots at range, this makes your HE less reliable because, of course, you're going to have to give your shots a different amount of lead depending upon what ammunition you're firing. Now that's a pretty common state of affairs, and it does mean that unless the target is stationary, or I suppose moving directly toward or away from you, it's probably best to stick with AP. If you're at close range and you're pretty sure you can connect your shots, then HE can definitely be a way to go. Now this match has become rather awkward, unfortunately. There are 3 allies left and 2 enemies, but in case you hadn't noticed, we're down to just a shade over 2 minutes on the clock. Yeah, this one could end in a slightly frustrating fashion. Guess we'll see. So, Puffs is, like, in a really awkward position. Oh, there's the SU-130 PM, right! Because the thing is, of course, we didn't know where that guy was. Puffs is on 51 health. That guy could load a HE round, probably deal with Puffs with great aplomb. And he has a lot of hit points left. And there's artillery on the enemy team. So, yeah, but if you don't play this situation to win, in my opinion, what are you doing? And Puffs goes for it. And his platoon mate there, Wibble, is asking the SU, friendly SU there, that is, to move around the flank of the enemy SU. The allied team need to do something because otherwise you're staring down the barrel of a draw, which can go die in a fire as far as I'm concerned. So coming around here, and where's that SU gone? Oh, this should make anyone nervous. Oh, hello. Right, HE round into his butt, low damage roll, but it is what it is. Can we get a second shot into him? There we go, 299. Oh, and the SU takes out Puffs just at the same time that the friendly SU takes out the enemy SU, and that leaves the artillery with 3 kills. So, 45 seconds left on the clock. Can the friendly SU-130 PM, with the assistance of the friendly artillery, deal with the enemy SU-130? Sorry, SU-14-2. Firstly, you got to find him. Now, he was last spotted up in B0. He's quite a slow, ponderous machine, so there's a very good chance he's still there. The problem, of course, being that the Su-130 PM has 193 health left. The artillery would just need to splash close to him to kill him, and we're down to 10 seconds left on the clock. The Su is just not the fastest tank in the world. 8 seconds, come on. Come on. A single shot will deal with this artillery. Someone needs to take a blind shot, and they just don't. That is the game, and my heart goes out to Puffs there, because that's a bit of a heartbreaker. You've done everything you can, you get right to the end, you die because you have to try and make something work, and you just timed out. That's frustrating. Let's have a look at the post-game stats. So, yeah, that was a draw. Well, that sucks. Ace tanker, fighter, fire for effect, and a high caliber medal. I mean, that's a lot of credits, but it is what it is. The friendly artillery didn't seem to be landing that many meaningful shots, and you're never quite sure if that's because the guy sucks and should have positioned better, and looking at the minimap I reckon he could have positioned better, but also a degree of poor luck in there. The friendly SU kind of was a bit late in doing things, I suppose, but low health, and what can you expect from many players in a fragile paper tank destroyer? It's just one of those awkward situations. 4,485 damage, 4 kills, or 1,026 base XP before we include... Oh no, wait. Yeah, before we include Heroic Resistance, I think, on what replays, but we'll have a look in just a moment. To be fair to that SU, he did do over 3,000 damage. So, in terms of dealing the damage, he was definitely pulling his weight. Could he have been a bit more proactive at the end? Probably. Was he the main reason his team lost? I'm not sure. There were plenty of people on the friendly team who just didn't make enough of an impact. Shout out to the enemy Object 703 for holding people up for so long, and he did almost 3,000 damage himself. The enemy Su-130 PM, 2,500 damage from him and 3 kills. And at the end of the day, the enemy artillery, the Su-14-2, 3,000 damage, 3 kills from him in an SPG is a very good result. But that was a draw, worst of all results, because everybody loses. Go figure. 41 shots fired, 27 hits, 20 penetrations for that damage count. 7 hits received, 5 penetrated, 2 did not. Very much showing that whilst the Patriot does have some armour, I mean, it's not a mouse or anything. 1,815 assistance damage, 9 enemy tanks damaged, 4 destroyed, just over 3 kilometres travelled. And with a premium account, that was still a substantial profit, even though there was some resupply of gold ammunition there. So, Heroic Resistance factored in, that ends up being over 1,500 base experience, which is a very nice game by anyone's standards. Well, that was a little bit depressing. Let's go and have a look at another one. Alright, here we go with the second game then, and we are back with Puffs and the Patriot. Matchmaking's a little bit different this time. It's better / worse, depending upon your perspective. This is 3-5-7 matchmaking, sort of. There are only 6 tier 6s, and there are 4 tier 8s on each team, but close enough. Which, as I kind of implied or mentioned earlier on the one hand means that you can probably have a bigger impact in your top tier tank. On the other hand, it kind of means there's less damage to go around, so if you're in a premium and you're wanting them credits, you can argue as to how optimal that is. Anyway, thank you, Heavy Tank number 6. We are here on, I can never remember the name of this map, Tundra, that's the one. And Puffs is taking his Patriot over to the hill on the 9 line. And a lot of people would say that's more where medium tanks go. Yes, it is. But this is a Patriot. It's reasonably mobile, again, based on the Pershing, and it's got some armour to go around, so there's that. So we could definitely have a good game up here, and unlike some heavy tanks, he wouldn't spend so long getting up here that he's then going to be about as useful as a chocolate teapot. He should definitely be able to make a good impact here. Ooh, Tiger 2 on the enemy team appears to have had a very similar thought, which is interesting. And the T-29, okay. It looks like we're gonna have some heavy tank dueling going on over here. There's a Panther 2 as well, just for good measure, but I think this is mainly going to be a heavy tank thing. Now, this game is, of course, after... Oh, 45 TP, go away. This is after the buffs to, hello Mr. Panzer, to the German sort of some of the German 88 and 105mm guns at around tier 7 and 8. So the Panther's hitting for 280, the Tiger II's, assuming he's got the top gun, is hitting for 360, and so on, and this is where you can see the armour on the Patriot come to the fore. The M6 is just going to really struggle to achieve anything in that position, and really shouldn't sit there because, well, Puffs is just going to shred him. This tank, the Patriot, does have pretty good DPM, and whilst the M6 also has pretty good DPM, he just does not have the penetration to do much meaningful to Puffs here, and, well, kicking them puppies. Someone thinks Puffs should withdraw. No, I think it's just because the 45 TP wants that position. Well, tough. Puffs has a good tank for this position. He's having a good impact. Just leave him here. Anyway. T29 has resorted to firing HE at Puffs in order to attempt to do something to him, but 46 damage a shot. It's not going to do a huge amount, but as everyone knows, HE ammo definitely needs a rework, right? Because it does too much damage to heavily armoured tanks. I'm just going to leave that one there. No, I'm not going to leave that one there. That's a slightly throwaway remark from me. Because it's not as if I'm entirely without sympathy for people who do think HE might need a little bit of work. However, I think it's a narrow perspective that has arisen from people playing tier 10 a lot and getting sick of 15cm HE shells. The entire game does not revolve around tier 10. Anyway, I'm not going to go into a full diatribe here. I'm just going to put in a cheeky little comment. So, T29 Bedoing. Oh, can we get some damage in on the Tiger II? Yes, we can, and some tracking into the bargain. Lovely. Hello, Miss T29. Your upper hull is not particularly good. And you're going to get slapped if you try that. T29 is now in a better hull down position. And so we're going to have fascinating American hull down on hull down action. Which no one will fall asleep to, I promise. Has anyone noticed how much damage Puffs is doing here, by the way? He's only got the one kill, but definitely racking up them damned eggs. Would be really nice to get some shots on the Super Hell Kitty and the Tiger II here, and if the Tiger II's going to poke, well, we'll take his track out again, and Puffs' reload is good enough. Oh, it looks like the Tiger II had his repair kit back. Oh, he's no fun. I wouldn't go for the turret shot there. I think the Tiger II was perhaps over-angling his side armour. So I think that might have been a better shot, but I'm not sure if he's over-angling it anymore. Yeah, no, like the Tiger II's in a pretty strong position. When they buffed the gun, they also buffed the front of the turret for more fascinating hull-down gameplay. So I actually think that Puffs is better off changing his engagement here. Doesn't want to get caught out by the T29 and gets caught out by the Tiger II as well. I think that was slightly overly ambitious. T29 should be reloading there so he can sneak another shot into the Tiger II, just about. And the Tiger II actually dies for it. Scoreline, by the way, is 10-8. The friendly team are essentially grinding down the enemy on all flanks slowly and painfully, and if Puffs hadn't been on this flank, the enemy team may well have won, because this is quite an impressive performance that Puffs is putting together. So, Eagle 7's just gone down, the enemy Panther II takes him out. T29 there, still in a frustrating hull down position, and there's still a Super Hellcat that could put flanking shots into Puffs if he tries to be too aggressive here, so we do need to be a little bit careful. And the enemy team have finally won and pushed through on the other flank, so Puffs is deciding to go for it, bounces the shot from the Super Hell Kitty, can't quite get a shot there onto the T29, and so goes for the Super Hellcat again. And can we squeeze another shot into the kitty? Yes, we can. Lovely, jubbly, bubbly. Shot there onto the T29 potentially, but the T29's like, nope. Pulls back, but at this point, Puffs has the armor advantage, the hit point advantage, the DPM advantage. The only problem is whether the T29 has friends, and we know the Super Hellcat is in this vicinity, and we know the Panther II was last spotted in the background. Having said that, because the Panther II picked up... Oh, goodbye, Mr. T29, that was a mistake. Because the Panther II, picked up a kill, I'm inclined to think he has moved. But either way, Puffs is able to pick the kill up on the T-29 as he just essentially drives out sideways on in front of a Patriot and other tanks, which is perhaps not his best plan. Super Hellcat there on relatively low health, but I think Puffs has come to the conclusion that someone else is going to pick him up, and indeed the 45 TP obliges. And that just leaves the Panther 2, who is somewhere. Oh, there we go. He is still over here. There we are. Don't bother aiming on the move. Boom. Headshot. He is done. Let's have a look at the results. So, that was a rather less depressing game than the previous one. Ace Tanker, Shellproof, Fire for Effect, Steel Wall, and High Caliber medals. 4,707 damage done, 3 kills, 1,532 base experience. Very nice performance, however you look at it. Shout out to the friendly SU-130 PM. He wasn't on Puff's flank, I don't believe. He was over on the other side of the map, but he managed over 3,000 damage before he went down. And shout outs also on the enemy team to the Tiger 2 for putting out 3k damage, the IS-6 for putting out 2,504 kills and kind of pushing his team through on the other flank, and frankly the P-43 TER, the Peter. I believe that's the tier 6, might be the tier 7, I'm not that familiar with the Italians. Point is, he wasn't top tier, still over 2,000 damage from him, so well played. If we have a look at the detailed results there, we can see that Puffs also blocked 4,355 damage with his armour. So the Patriot definitely has armour, as long as it's not getting shot by Scorpions and SU-130 PMs all game long. 842 assistance damage, damaged 6 of the enemy team, killed 3 of them, and a lot of credits into the bargain. That was a nice, quick, make the money kind of game, and it just worked very nicely there. So there we go. Couple of games for you there in the Patriot. If you enjoyed, as I hope you did, feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel if you are interested in submitting your own replays to yours truly. Upload them to whatreplays.com. Jump on our Discord, there is a link in the video description, and put the URL to the replay in the appropriate place, and I shall take a look. And with all that said and done, I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao, ciao!